I use shell voicings a lot in my accompanying. They're very versatile and functioning, but they're also a little bit dry. There are going to be times when you want a little bit more. And in this video, we're going to take a look at my go-to 4-note voicings. Hi, I'm Dr. George of Jumpstart Jazz Guitar. Jazz guitar for busy adults. Everything you need to know without all the noise. Before we get started, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So today we're going to be looking at my go-to 4-note voicings. Most of them are based on shell voicings. If you're not familiar with those, you'll want to check out this video and download the PDF. Now we're going to be adding one note to the shell voicings on the 2nd string. So all of these chords will have a root either on the 6th or the 5th string and the other notes on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. Now because we're adding another note, the minor 7 flat 5 and the diminished 7th chords become their own chord types. And we're also going to add a new chord into the mix, the minor major 7th. So now we'll have 11 chord types, but they're still only based on 6 shell voicings. We're going to start with the root 6 chords that are based on shell voicings. The first one's major 7th chords. I'll be doing these in A. So here's the root 6 major 7. We're going to add the 5th to it. The major 6 chord is very similar. We're going to add that 5th as well. So here's this major 6, and we'll add that note. Now with the minor 7th chord, here's our shell, we're going to add the 5th as well. And now the minor 7 flat 5, since this is the 5th, here's the flat 5. Now for the minor 6 chord, here's our shell. And again, we're going to add the 5th. Now the dominant 7th chord is going to be just a little bit different. We could add the 5th here and it would be like this. It's not one of my favorite grips. Okay? And my default is usually to add the 13th. I just like that sound better. And then with the dominant 7th altered chord, I'm going to use the sharp 5. And then finally, for the diminished 7th. Remember, the diminished 7th used the minor 6 as a shell voicing. If we add the 5th, it becomes a minor 6. If we flat that 5th, we now have the diminished 7th chord. Now let's look at the root 5 chords based on shells. We'll start again with the major 7th chord. I'll be on the 5th fret playing in D chords. So here's our major 7th chord. I'm going to add that same note, but now it's the 9th. The major 6th chord, I could add that 9th, but I find that to be a little too rich. When I'm looking for a major 6th chord, I'm looking for something a little bland. And so I'm usually going to just add the root up here. Now our minor 7th chord looks like this. And I'm going to change the fingering like to this, and I can add the root up here. But actually the chord that I use most is this one, where I add the 3rd to the chord. The minor 6th chord, we can add the root, but I usually add the 9th. Our dominant 7th chord, we're going to add the 9th as well. And I usually bar that with the 3rd finger. And for the dominant 7th altered, you have a couple of choices. You can either use the sharp 9 or the flat 9. And then the sus4 chord is also based on the shell. Here we have, and again we're going to add the 9th. Now, you've probably noticed that we skipped a couple of chords, and that's because they don't work as well as shell voicings. The first one that I skipped was the root 6, 7 sus4 chord. The one that I end up using is this one. Okay? And essentially what that is a G chord with an A in the bass. Now, there were 2 chords on the root 5s that we skipped too. First is the minor 7 flat 5. So what we end up doing is putting the 5th down here and then putting the 3rd up here. So we take the 3rd, move it up an octave, and we'll put that flat 5 right here. And the same problem is with the diminished chord. So we end up moving this around. Here's that flat 5. So here's the half diminished or diminished minor 7 flat 5, and it moves. Here's the diminished 7th chord. Now there's one new chord that I wanted to introduce, and that's the minor major 7th chord. And that means it's a minor triad with a major 7th on it. If we were playing it in the key of A, if we were playing an A chord, it would be A, C, E, G sharp. It's going to have a very augmented sound to it, and it's used primarily as a tonic chord in minor keys, often just at the ending. Here we have a minor 7th chord. There's the major 7th. And then we'll add the 5th on top of that too. And then when we're going to be playing it as a root 5 chord, we'll start with your basic minor bar chord, and we're just going to lower that root 1 step, and we get this chord. Now I have a little bonus for you. These are 2 other chords that are based on the root 5 bar chord, and I use them quite often, even though they're not shell voicings. So the first is the major 7th chord. Now, if we start with a major chord here, the root 5 major chord, what we're going to do is take that note again and move it down a half step, just like we did with the minor major 7th chord, and we get this chord. I use this chord all the time. And then the other chord that I use is a minor 11th chord. And so here we have your standard minor 7th chord with a root 5 bar chord. I'm going to remove the 5th entirely. And I use this one a lot too. And this one actually has an interesting part to it, is that all of the notes are a 4th apart. D to G, G to C, and C to F. So it is in fact what we call a quartal chord. So here's what you should do. Start practicing with songs. It'll make them sound a little bit more full, and you'll enjoy them more. And as you can see, the fingerings will take a little bit more time to learn. They're a little more difficult than working with just the 3-note shell voicings. The other thing that you ought to do is learn the 2-5-1s in both the major and the minor key. And so for a major key, 2, 5, 1. And the 1 chord could either be the major 7 chord or the major 6 chord. So, and then learn the same thing on the other side, starting on the 5th root. And you can go to either this one or to this one. Right? Now with the minor key, you're going to be playing minor 7 flat 5, one of the altered dominants. And then you can either go to the minor 6 or the minor major 7th. And then the same, starting on the root 5, an altered dominant, and then a minor 6. And I went to the minor 6-9 here, or to the minor major 7. So thanks for watching. Once again, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to share the videos. If you have any topics you'd like me to cover, leave a comment down below. And if you'd like to go deeper, book a free lesson with me. The link's down below in the description. See you next time.